Okay, before we move on to the next parameter, I wanted to demonstrate some practical examples of some different ratios. So if you are a more visual-based learner like I am, then I think this is going to help out a lot. So let's just take a listen to this little audio example. This is just some recorded dialogue. Hence with like ghost notes or like crazy fast double bass. So later on, I'll get into some of those examples, but just for now. All right, so as you can see, clearly things are pretty consistent level-wise here and here, but there's a big jump around here. So the first half of the word later. So that's what I want to turn down. So what I want to do first is just go into the mix window and take a look at the levels. So as you can see, I've got some, routing going on. I'll talk about that in a second, but let's just listen to things. Hence with like ghost notes or like crazy fast double bass. So later on, I'll get into some of those examples, but just for now, for just like a steady, hence with like ghost notes or like crazy fast double bass. So later on, I'll get into some of those examples, but. Okay, so you notice how the majority of the dialogue is kind of floating around negative 35 dB, but those jumps, those peaks in volume register around, negative 21. So that's a pretty big jump. This is where compression comes in and more importantly, ratio. So first thing I want to go over is bring this guy back in. As you can see, this is the initial, this is the track, and this is what I'm going to be recording into. I've bussed this out to bus 1, and then this is going to be coming back on bus 2, going into this track. So let's enact this thing. I've already dialed back the threshold here so that anything above negative 37 is going to trigger the compressor to start working. All right, so as you can see here, the ratio is set to 2:1. I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm just going to record an example. So let's bring that in over here, bring you in over here, and here we go. Is going to go, the lighter the touch is going to be, hence with like ghost notes or like crazy fast double bass. So later on, I'll get into some of those examples, but just for now, for just like a steady, Okay, so already you can see the ratio doing its thing. It's shaved off a little bit. I set it so it would be giving me around 5 or 6 dB gain reduction, right? So here's a visual representation of that. So some situations might call for a really extreme ratio setting, right? It's something really, really, really high. In the case of this peak, right? Everything I was doing up until this point wasn't really taming it to my liking. So I wound up having to go really extreme and go to a 20:1 ratio. So let's listen to the first example. Which is going to be, hence with like ghost notes or like crazy fast double bass. So later on, I'll get into some of those examples. And now here's 2:1. And as you can see, it's already being squeezed a little bit. And there's no gain reduction being applied in the compressor yet, nothing like that. Just have a really fast attack, and the threshold is dialed in at around negative 35 dB, because that's basically where the rest of the track is hovering at. So let's listen to that. Just going to be, hence with like ghost notes or like crazy fast double bass. So later on, I'll get into some of those examples, but just for. And now let's hear 20:1. And as you can see, this is much more even visibly to everything else, much more manageable compared to this. Let's have a listen. Which is going to be, hence with like ghost notes or like crazy fast double bass. So later on, I'll get into some of those examples, but. Now you notice how it sounded a little bit squeezed on this, so I might try to, experiment with backing off the ratio a little bit to make it sound a little bit more natural, or do things like that. But if you have an instrument that, for the most part is very consistent, and yet there are these strong peaks periodically, like for instance, if you are recording slap bass, right, and like those little ping, those little transients stick out a lot, this might be a handy little trick to help you smooth things out. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. This video is actually taken from a course I just put out on udemy.com that talks about how to record professional sounding vocal takes from your home studio on budget gear and stock plugins and all that sort of stuff. So if you find this video to be valuable and you want to know more, you can click the link in the description below to sample some more free videos like this one and see if the course is right for you.